But first, almost 2 months after fires destroyed homes and businesses in Knysna, determined residents are rebuilding their lives against tremendous odds. John Webb reports.
It was one of the most devastating fires to hit South Africa in more than a century. Knysna was virtually encircled in flames. As the flames closed in, there was a rising sense of panic amongst the people living in Knysna as the escape routes were slowly but surely cut off. In fact, here in Belvedere, the only option was a water evacuation. The NSRI and commercial operators launched their craft into a hostile lagoon. Heading up operations was Jerome SIMONIS.
The biggest problem was visibility. With 15 meters, it's very difficult to navigate on the lagoon here. We don't practice for this type of evacuation where you've got wheelchairs involved, where you've got elderly, frail people, where you've got animals involved. This was a one of a kind.
Media reports are emerging that one fire, which started in the Elandskraal area, may have been the result of a lightning strike. Footage allegedly taken 11 days before the June 7th inferno shows a smouldering fire in the indigenous forest, which was allegedly reported to fire authorities but not acted upon. The Knysna municipality says it can't comment until its investigation is completed. Still, roots are smouldering at Elandskraal. They're called peat fires. They spread slowly down the roots for several meters.
That's because some of it's not under the ground. It's actually in what we call a peat, a type of peat moss or peat from the years of the leaves and debris falling off the tree. So it's basically under that. And there's air pockets, and that's where the fire gets its oxygen from.
50 millimeters of rainfall is required in this area to stop the slow burn.
We are monitoring it, and if it does, what we say, come out of the bush towards an accessible area, we'll definitely take it on. But it's too risky to send the crews, and the terrain isn't accessible to vehicles or anything to be able to extinguish those little smouldering fires.
Whatever the cause of the fire, it left a trail of utter destruction and despair. Knysna resident NOMA-EFESE PANGO still struggles to return to where her home once stood.
It was very stressful for me to come. I don't like to come and see this because it stressed me so much.
Sure. 7 deaths, 700 homes completely destroyed, and several hundred more damaged by the fire. It's almost 2 months later, and still the people of Knysna are battling to come to terms with this tragedy. Compounding their misery is that over 50% of residents weren't insured, like internationally acclaimed leather designers and manufacturers Aldo and Celia Klein. They didn't have household content insurance. Their workshop and stock, valued at around 2 million rand, was wiped out.
The main thing for me really is losing all my tools, my machineries, my sewing machines, things that we've gathered through the years, that we've collected from various countries all over the world.
Another without insurance is Zach Liepner, who lost everything he owns when his house was razed to the ground. Did you ever imagine that you would be at this point in your life, being where you are, surviving on the compassion of other people?
Yeah, honestly, I don't wish this upon anyone, you know?
For those who do have insurance, many have become frustrated. Business owner Evelyn Pepler started a Facebook group called Afterburn for residents to share their experiences with their insurance companies. So what sort of common complaints are you hearing?
Well, the frustrations are of settlement offers, or initial discussions around that of half of what they're insured for, and massive deductions for things like paving that's left and retaining walls and a swimming pool, despite the house being completely lost.
So once you get a good idea of who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, you might possibly expose the bad guys.
Oh, yeah, I think we should, yeah.
Resident and estate agent Lizette Monk was so fed up with her insurance company's tardiness that she posted her story on social media.
That was 2 o'clock the Thursday afternoon. And by 4 o'clock that same day, I'd signed off and they were processing my payment.
And is there any doubt in your mind that going on social media is what clinched the deal for you?
Absolutely.
The Western Cape government has earmarked tens of millions of rands for NYSNA to help with the rebuild. Much of that money will be spent on infrastructure. But what about residents who have lost their homes? NYSNA Mayor Eleanor Bowes-Spies says those who are not insured do qualify for help.
But that form of help we cannot change as we go along. It's the same standard form of help. So a person, for instance, within the area of White location, qualifies for a home of 110,000 rand, breaking new ground home. That goes to any other person who has not been insured.
And that's also true of the more affluent areas. The council is hoping to find a way of offering the fire victims building materials to the value of 110,000 rand, as opposed to a basic house of that value. Big business, relief organizations and individuals continue to give generously, and volunteers are working around the clock. Many home and business owners have provided accommodation for those displaced, like Raja MKWAILA and his family, who lost everything.
We feel bad. It's painful to lose everything like that. It's very painful.
A local veterinary service where Raja works has provided him and his family with a small office to live in. Tragedies like this one often bring out the very best in people. Sadly, though, that's not always the case. Some call it supply and demand, others profiteering. Many people we spoke to who are desperate for alternative accommodation describe increased rentals, and this was confirmed by Lizette Monk.
The landlords are under, thinking that the insurance companies are paying astronomical amounts for rentals. So across the board, prices are going up. I had a call yesterday where the lady was getting 5,000, but an estate agent told her, no, but the one next door, she's now getting 8.5 for exactly the same thing, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So I said, well, in that instance, it's purely greed due to the situation we're in with the fires.
It's only when you drive around NYSNA that you begin to appreciate the extent of the devastation caused by the wildfires. But then again, how could you ever fully understand the extraordinary trauma suffered by this town and its people? NOMA-EFESE lived here with her family for 20 years.
It was our pride and everything to us because we do it with our own hands.
And it's the loss of irreplaceable sentimental belongings that often hurts the most. Does it make you angry? Does it make you
frustrated?
Sorrowful?
Frustrated, yeah. Maybe it'll come later. One always says, men don't cry.
Recognizing the community's pain, psychologist Joanna Kashula has started weekly trauma workshops for women.
There's a lot of grief. There's so much sadness. The loss is absolutely overwhelming. And there are recurring themes that are coming up. Loss of material possessions. For some, you would say, no, it's not that important. But our things do define us. They are what we've collected over the years, and they're part of our stories.
Joanne plans to hold meetings for men too. Sometimes it gets too much for Zach Liepner, whose parents' home was also destroyed.
No, I think, the only thing we can do is be positive. We've had so much help and love from everyone, and, it's hard. Seeing my parents and stuff, that's the hardest. Because I'm worried about them, I'm young. I can pull through this, but...
Are they okay? How are they doing?
Yeah, I just hate something to happen to them, that's all.
The NYSNA fire has re-traumatized the Kleins. In a bitter irony, they were in New York during the 9/11 attacks and lost everything. They decided to make a fresh start in NYSNA.
For me, since from the tragedy at the 9/11, which me and my husband are the survivors from that tragic event, and now facing this fire, devastated fire that kills everything, include our way of making a living.
Roughly 2,500 residents lost their jobs, and that's in a town already enduring tough economic times.
Yes, it's very, very difficult, yes, but I don't know what we are going to do because my husband is not working, and I'm just working 3 days a week. sometimes 2 days a week.
And so the people of Knysna are buckling down to rebuild, often in the face of almost insurmountable odds.
It's a very traumatic experience, and it's very difficult to actually put it in words. But we are surviving.